Hi, my name is Peter Parker. You don't remember me, but we used to know each other.
That's not the voice of someone who's saved New York 3 times. It doesn't sound like a hero. It sounds like someone who isn't sure they're allowed to reach out at all. And if you just look at his face in that moment, not at the suit, not at the action, you see it. A 22-year-old writing a note to people who don't know his name, terrified of the answer. Most people heard that and felt sad. But sadness assumes you understand the loss.
How'd you know her?
Through Spider-Man.
Happy stood at the grave of a woman he loved and didn't recognize the boy she raised. Peter remembers everything, and the people closest to him don't even know his name. He's the only witness to his own life. And what if I told you, that's not a tragic detail. That's the entire psychological horror of what Brand New Day is actually about. And almost nobody who watched that trailer saw it. I'll get into all of that. But first, we need some context. Here's what happened. And I mean what actually happened, not the plot summary version. At the end of No Way Home, Peter asks Doctor Strange to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Not to erase Spider-Man, not to undo the multiverse, just to remove the connection between the name Peter Parker and the mask. Strange does it. And here's what most people miss about that spell. It didn't erase Peter Parker. It erased the relationship between Peter and every person who ever knew him. Peter still exists. He still has his memories. He still walks the same streets. He passes the same people who used to wave at him in the hallways. He walks past the coffee shop where he and MJ had their first date. He drives past Midtown High every morning. They just don't know who he is anymore. And if you think that's just loneliness, you haven't thought about it hard enough yet. There's a concept in psychology called narrative identity. The idea is simple. We construct who we are through the stories we tell about ourselves. But more importantly, through the people who confirm those stories back to us. You are, in part, who your friends remember you to be. Think about that for a second. Your oldest friend remembers the embarrassing thing you said at 14. Your mom remembers your first steps. Your partner remembers the first time you made them laugh. Those memories don't just exist for them. They anchor your sense of self. They're external witnesses to the fact that you happened. Now take every single one of those away. Not just the good ones, the painful ones too. The failures, the moments you're not proud of. Because those are identity as well. Peter Parker wakes up every morning knowing he is Spider-Man. He knows he saved New York 3 times. He knows he loved MJ. He knows Ned was his best friend. He knows May died in his arms saying,
"And with great power, there must also come great responsibility."
And there is not a single living person who can confirm any of it. He's not just alone, he's unverifiable. This is where it gets darker. Because isolation doesn't just make people sad, it makes them desperate. And desperate people make terrible decisions. In Across the Spider-Verse, we meet Miguel O'Hara. And Miguel is fascinating. Not because he's a villain, but because he represents what Peter Parker could become if the isolation has enough time to harden. Miguel has built an entire ideology around this idea. Some losses are supposed to happen. The canon must be preserved. Certain events are fixed points, and fighting them doesn't make you a hero. It makes you the villain of your own story.
Being Spider-Man is a sacrifice. That's the job. That's what you signed up for.
On the surface, that sounds like acceptance. It sounds like wisdom. But look at what Miguel actually does. He doesn't grieve his losses. He controls other people's. He takes his own trauma, the version of himself that lost everything, that replaced a man in another dimension and watched that family fall apart, and turns it into a system, a bureaucracy, an army. He decides who gets to fight fate and who doesn't, and then he enforces it. That's not acceptance. That's what unprocessed grief looks like when it gets powerful enough to act. And here's why that matters for Brand New Day. Miguel is the warning. He is what happens when Peter stops reaching out to people who don't remember his name and starts resenting them for it instead. There's a reason they call him Spider-Man and not Man-Spider. In the original comics, there's actually a villain by that name, Man-Spider. A version of Peter who lost control of the spider side. More instinct than thought. More survival than choice. And here's the thing about Brand New Day. After the memory wipe, the instinct side is easier. Spider-Man doesn't need anyone to remember him. A mugger doesn't care who you are. A burning building doesn't ask for ID. The spider half of Peter Parker can keep functioning indefinitely in a world where no one knows his face. The man half can't. The man half needs Ned to call back, needs MJ to remember the first date on the scaffolding, needs Aunt May to still be alive to make dinner. Brand New Day is the story of what happens when the spider starts winning. Not because Peter becomes violent, not because he loses his moral code, but because it's just easier to be the hero everyone needs than the person nobody remembers. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't a recap channel. We don't do plot summaries here. If this is the kind of breakdown you want every week, subscribe. There are more of these coming, and they only get deeper. So here's what Brand New Day is actually about. And this is the part most people missed. It's not a story about loss. It's a story about what you choose to keep when no one's watching. Because Peter Parker doesn't have to keep being Peter Parker. Nobody would know. Nobody would check. He could move to a different city, build a different life. Let Spider-Man be a rumor from a few years ago that nobody can quite verify. He doesn't. He keeps the name. He keeps the mission. He keeps showing up. And that's either the most heroic thing in the entire MCU, or it's the most tragic. Because the answer depends entirely on one question. Is Peter Parker choosing to be a hero, or is he choosing to be a hero because there's nothing else left? The spider didn't lose anything the night Strange cast that spell. The man did. And every single time Peter puts that mask on in Brand New Day, every time he swings through a city that doesn't know his face, he's making that choice again. Whether he's making it freely? That's the question the MCU hasn't answered yet. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, drop a comment. Tell me, do you think Peter Parker is still choosing to be a hero? Or is the spider just all that's left? Hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Until then, stay cult.